Welcome, friends, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani along with Jerry Usher, and this is your show. This is where we take a fresh look at ourselves and the world around us. So we're going to ask you today to please set this hour aside to really pay attention, because this show may just change the way you look at things and the way you look at our young folks out there. Because did you know that the third leading cause of death amongst our young children, nope, it's not cancer. You probably thought that for a second. It's not. It's something else. It's suicide. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to ask you to really pay attention, because you could change a life and you can really change the way you view things. Jerry, as you can tell, I'm already emotional about this subject, and I just pray that our listeners really pay attention.
Yeah, we want to welcome you all to the program and invite you to participate. The phone number is 1-800-585-9396. If you or a loved one, someone that you know is maybe struggling with depression, anxiety, has attempted suicide, or maybe, as they say, succeeded in dying by suicide, we are going to talk about that here on the program today. And it's going to be a very frank and candid conversation. We have a guest, as you can see, if you're watching on the YouTube Live stream or EWTN Facebook. Dave Muth is with us. Actually, I'm in Dave's home today. And coming up on October 4th, I believe it was, Dave, yes. His daughter Madeline died by suicide, and so Dave and his family have lived through this, and Dave is involved with organizations that are getting the word out there, raising awareness, and really changing people's minds, as Debbie said, and saving lives. And so, Dave, we really appreciate you making this time to be with us today.
Thank you, Jerry. It's a blessing to be here with you and Debbie and the Take Two family.
So again, if you want to weigh in on this conversation, it's 1-800-585-9396. You can also text the letters EWTN to 55000 and join the conversation. Debbie, it's going to be, I think, a powerful program.
I prayed about that. I really hope that lives can be changed, and we can view even mental illness or disorders in a different way. You know, Jerry, I struggle with it all the time. I had cancer in 1994, and it's taken a long time, but people will try to rally around and fight that cancer, and cancer is the enemy, and let's go get cancer. And yes, that's great, absolutely. But when you have something like a mental illness, everybody goes, whoa, wait a minute, I don't know how I'm going to relate to that one. And no, something's wrong with the person. And Dave, I stated at the beginning of the show that the third leading cause of death is not cancer amongst our young kids, our teens. It's suicide. Did you know that prior to what happened with Madeline?
No. I had some knowledge of it. Madeline and I became involved in... we became volunteers for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention long before she took her life. So I did start to learn some of the statistics, but until Madeline actually passed, it really hit home, and I really came to that realization of how serious a problem it is.
Wow.
Yeah, and Dave, again, we mentioned that we're going to obviously delve into some things that you are graciously sharing with us and our listeners, and we appreciate it so much. And dear friends, feel free to call if you want to join the conversation. 1-800-585-9396. Surviving suicide is really what we're talking about today. And Dave, as a parent, when you first, I guess it sort of came into your family's consciousness that Madeline was dealing with depression and having issues like this, how did you? What did your family do at that time?
Well, from a very early age, Jerry, we knew something wasn't right. Around the ages of 3 and 4, we had started seeing things in Madeline that we knew just weren't right, and my wife and I, we started seeing a counselor to give us some family parenting coaching and to try to work through those issues. But it wasn't until Madeline was about 11 years old that we really knew something wasn't right. She had attempted suicide, and at that point she started seeing a therapist, weekly therapy.
Dave, she was diagnosed with bipolar, but was it actually bipolar? Did you come? I read an article that you said you thought she was misdiagnosed.
Yeah, the diagnosis of bipolar is very difficult for a child to actually meet the criteria. So even though the doctors thought that she was suffering with juvenile bipolar, in retrospect, looking at it, we think possibly it was borderline personality disorder that Madeline suffered with.
Okay. And how did her classmates, was she homeschooled or did she go to school or?
She went to when she was young, she went to a Montessori school, and then she went to a private Catholic school. And then when we moved out here to Palm Desert, she went to the local Catholic school.
Okay. How did the kids react? Did they know that she was maybe emotionally needed some help?
Yes, all of the kids knew that she was referred to as an odd duck. She didn't fit in. She really struggled with friendships and relationships, and she had a difficult time getting through the day. I can recall, at school in morning prayer, she would be afraid to go to school. And she would muster up all of the courage that she had to actually go into school and to make it through the day. And they didn't know how to deal with her. They just weren't equipped.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You can join us at 1-800-585-9396. I wanted to, several times, Debbie and I want to give out during the show, Dave, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which, by the way, next week is National Suicide Awareness Week?
Next week is National Suicide Prevention Week.
National Suicide Prevention Week.
It's a week-long campaign to bring awareness to suicide and suicide prevention here in the United States.
So if anyone, please, folks, write this down. It's going to be on the take2show.com website. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K, 1-800-273-8255. You mentioned Madeline's first suicide attempt at the age of 11, I believe. Correct. You said.
Yes.
But in the subsequent years, Dave, she really became a voice of encouragement for a lot of people speaking out at rallies and gatherings, and even it seems that she may have even saved a life or two.
Yes. At first, Jerry, we were very, dealing with mental illness within your family. We just became secluded. We didn't know how to tell people, and when we did tell people, their reactions weren't very compassionate. So we just pretty much kept to ourselves. And it wasn't until the age of 13 that Madeline won a national essay contest entitled Breaking Barriers. And it was at that time that she was published in the newspaper, and then she really found her voice and started to become vocal in regards to suicide prevention and mental illness. And then at the age of 15, here in our community, we had a community walk to raise awareness about suicide and suicide prevention, and Madeleine was the celebration of life speaker at that community walk. And that is the event that my friend Brenda really was moved by Madeleine's words as we had spoke.
I noticed, Jerry, we're on Facebook and YouTube. I noticed, Jerry, over your right shoulder, there's a beautiful picture of Madeleine on I believe it's a piano. And
Yes.
I hope maybe after one of the breaks you could maybe grab the photo, because she is just angelic looking. I mean, just a beautiful young girl, and you can see that she's got that spark of that smile on her. But she talked about, Dave, that she used to have to put this mask on to
Yes.
kind of go out there into the world, because obviously, like you said, not knowing how the world's going to accept her, or how she's going to interact, because she's hurting inside.
That's right. We were a master at that. Our family. I had mentioned to Jerry, we would go to church and people would comment, "You have such a beautiful family." The kids were so well behaved. We could go to fancy restaurants and they would behave, or go to weddings and things like that. But the moment we got back in the car, chaos would break out. We all became very good about that, about, in public, holding it together, and Madeleine especially, suppressing her emotions and just putting on a happy face and trying to get through the day.
Right.
Well, we thank all of you for being with us here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Again, we are having one of those very, very important, but I think deep conversations about surviving suicide. Dave Muth is graciously with us here and has welcomed me into his home. Actually, we happen to be fellow parishioners at Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Palm Desert, California, and it's, Dave, we know it's not an easy conversation for you to have, but I know in your heart you want to continue Madeline's, assistance and offering hope and healing. So that's why we're having this conversation. And folks, please, it may be difficult. You may just want to sit and absorb this or listen in. But if you have a family situation, maybe you yourself are dealing with depression, maybe you've had some suicidal thoughts. We're not counselors, we're not therapists, but perhaps some words that Dave could share from his own experience could be of help to you. Maybe you've got a young person in your life who's going through something, maybe even suicidal. 1-800-585-9396. So if we can kind of, I guess, fast forward a little bit to, she was, how old was Madeline when she passed?
Madeline was 2 weeks short of her 20th birthday.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as a family, I mean, you probably live every day fearing that might come, but then when it does come, and nothing in the world, I'm sure, could prepare you for it.
No, Jerry, as I had mentioned, Madeline wasn't the first family member or close friend that we had lost to suicide. I had also lost my 20-year-old nephew to suicide in 2007, and very devastating for the family. And then in 2010, I had lost my best friend, the best man at our wedding, to suicide. And, we were well aware of it. Madeline lived with depression, but as I mentioned to you, nothing could have prepared us for actually, her dying by suicide.
Well, Dave, we just so appreciate you being with us today because Take Two, one of the unique aspects of this show is that it really does impact families and the way we kind of view the world, and we can go kind of behind those curtains into people's homes and really have those frank, candid discussions that Jerry mentioned earlier, and we're doing that today. So thanks for being with us. Our guest today is Dave Muth. He's the father of Madeline Muth, who took her own life just about 2 years ago. So we're talking about surviving suicide today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Stay with us. We're going to get right to your calls.
Here's Peggy Normandin chatting with Catholics.
I am walking up the steps to Holy Redeemer Catholic Elementary School. It's a 108-year-old Catholic grammar school in North Portland, Oregon. And the third grade class has invited me to come in and ask these young Catholic students if they think they'd like to become a saint.
I think I'd want to be a saint, but I would also like to be a veterinarian since I love animals.
Have you heard of St. Francis of Assisi?
Mm-hmm.
He loved the animals too. He tamed wild wolves. He talked to the birds talked to him.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be a saint, but I kind of want to be an artist, maybe.
You don't think you can be a saint and an artist?
I could, but...
You look like you could be a very talented artist, but you also look like you've got a little saint in you. I see it.
Thank you.
Call Me Catholic with Peggy Normandin. Saturdays at 1 and 11 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Stay up to date on the latest EWTN TV and radio shows, books, art, CDs, and DVDs from Religious Catalog when you sign up for Wings, our weekly e-newsletter. Get Wings today at EWTN.com.
Now is the time to make your plans for the 2017 EWTN Family Celebration. September 9th and 10th are the dates, and Worcester, Massachusetts is the place for our celebration of 100 years of Fatima. This is your chance to meet your favorite Catholic TV and radio hosts, Father Mitch Pacwa, Marcus Grodi, Susan Conroy, Donna Marie Cooper O'Boyle, and Father Maurice Imalou. And best of all, it's free. For more information, go to EWTN.com/family celebration.
Hi, this is Anna Mitchell, host of the Sunrise Morning Show.
This is John Martinoni, host of EWTN Open Line Monday.
Hi, this is Barbara McWiggin. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Thanks as always to our show team, Rich, Matt, Jeff, the affiliates that carry the program today. We're talking about surviving suicide. Dave Muth is with us. His daughter Madeline died by suicide. It'll be 2 years on October 4th. And Debbie, you mentioned the picture of the beautiful his beautiful daughter, and Dave's got that right here. Maybe we can.
I'd love to. Oh,
yeah, isn't she just?
My goodness, she is model gorgeous.
Yeah.
Wow. And the smile she has.
Yeah. So we're going to get to your phone calls here again. It's 1-800-585-9396. Again, if you in any way have been impacted by the issue of suicide or depression, again, we can't obviously do counseling or therapy, but Debbie, as always, one of the goals of this show is to bring hope and to bring healing into every situation in life. And unfortunately, this is a growing phenomenon that more and more people are finding themselves facing. So that's why we wanted to have this conversation.
Absolutely. It's unfortunately, it's necessary in this day and age. But I just want to go back. You showed that beautiful picture of Madeline, and you said that it was difficult for her in school. You know, we all know that kids can be cruel. We know that.
Yes.
But I look at that a picture of Madeline. She's physically stunning, and yet children were still cruel to her. And this really is, I think, a wake-up call for parents to really encourage our young kids when when our kids interact in the world to be kind at every turn. That's because right. it's you don't know how you're affecting another life. I can't stress it enough, and thank you for sharing that, Dave, because I think it does for all of us as parents and grandparents. It makes us realize we can play an impact, at least in helping our children behave properly out there.
We absolutely can.
All right, we're going to go to your calls. Joanne in Lexington, Massachusetts, listening on the Station of the Cross. Joanne, you're first today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Thank you for your call.
Yes, hello. Thank you for taking my call. First of all, I want to just tell Dave how I can't imagine what he's going through, and I'm just so sorry about his beautiful daughter Madeline.
Thank you.
I give you so much. You have so much courage. I give you so much esteem that you're on the radio talking about this to help so many other people. I'm calling because my daughter, who's 28, I can't figure out if she's suicidal or not. I don't know. I know that she had a developmental delay all her life, but she was able to get through high school and college and have her driver's license, and she holds down 2 jobs. But she's very much to herself, and she has a very hard time making friends and doesn't really have any friends. And she's been taken advantage of by many people she's felt she's had to give them money, and so she would, because she was almost like she was trying to buy friendships. And she's presently in Morocco right this moment. She jumped on a plane to go see somebody that she gave money to, and we didn't know who he was, and she said she knew who he was. So I'm just praying that she comes back safely. She's supposed to come back this weekend. But I don't know if she's suicidal. I just know that she's very sad most of the time, and I'm not really sure how to figure out if someone is suicidal. She's tried to go to counseling, but she never stayed with it. And now, because she's 28 years old, she can do her own thing. No, I can't really do much to help her legally because she's independent, and there's, the HIPAA out there, so I can't really talk to her doctors that she's seen, and I have to hope that she tells me the truth, and most of the time she doesn't.
Well, Joanne, let's, again, neither Debbie nor I nor Dave are therapists or counselors, and certainly we wouldn't even try to venture, any kind of official guess as to whether your daughter is suicidal. But Dave, maybe, I don't know if you have any thoughts for Joanne just to kind of be on the lookout for.
Well, the first thing I would say is, what we had done is when we first realized that Madeline was going through depression and had suicidal thoughts, is we tried to educate ourselves. We did a lot of research, and we tried to learn the warning signs and just learn as much about it as we could. And one of the great things that's so beneficial in helping people is to start a conversation with them and really try to get to earn their trust and become an active listener, and just speak with them and develop a safe relationship to where they feel that they can trust you with their thoughts and feelings.
Joanne, I just have, I really appreciate what Dave had to say. I just want to say something from one mom to another. You're her mom, and there are certain instinctual things that'll just pop up. And if you're sensing that there's red flags with your daughter, there probably is. That's how I feel anyway, as a mom. And tell me if there's any other moms out there that disagree with that, because there's a certain thing that you just know about your children. So educating yourself, like Dave said, and to get those resources out there for your daughter. I think there's no accident to you calling and you sharing that, sharing your feelings about this. Would you agree with that, Dave, as a parent?
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right, Debbie. You know, a parent has instincts, and if Joanna's feeling those instincts, you know, there may be some truth to that her daughter may be having suicidal ideation. And you know, if she can open up the communication and develop that trust and really have a conversation with her.
All right, Joanne, I hope that's helpful. We will certainly keep your daughter in our prayers. And for your benefit and all of our listeners, again, this will be posted on the Take2Show.com website. But the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-8255. Again, Joanne, you go with our prayers. Thank you for calling. Busy phones here for Dave Muth, our guest, and we're going to go to Carol next in Wisconsin. Hi, Carol. Thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You're on with our guest, Dave Muth.
Yes, good morning, and my sympathies to Dave and your family. What a terrible heartache, and I thank you for bringing awareness to this. My cousin Antoinette, years ago, she took her life, and she made a suicide pact with her boyfriend, and she had everything in place. And even though I was an addictions counselor, she called me acting like she was doing something about her depression and so forth, and yet she you know, they make a plan and they plan to carry it out, and then anyway, so I wasn't able to help because I was going to see her on a Tuesday, and then on like Sunday night she committed suicide, and then her boyfriend didn't. He showed up at the funeral for the lunch and everything, but the addiction came into play, and I've been an addictions counselor for 34 years plus, and a lot of times when people are so ashamed of the addiction and drinking and other things that they think it'll work itself out, but that's so linked to addiction, because it's like addiction is like suicide on the installment plan. So if parents and family members see signs of addiction, they should err to the side of do something rather than wait. And there are these courses now too that are for suicide prevention that are like, you know, like CPR, where people and lay people can jump in and do something for heart victims. They have these courses for suicide now, and I just took one in her memory, and I felt so helpless because the family kept her protected until it was too late. They covered up her addiction. She was rolling cars, and she had medical problems, but she was a full-fledged alcoholic. And so I think people should factor that in, and also, you know, be aware of these courses and so forth. And now with the opioid crisis that's out there, which is, you know, I just met a mother last year at Hazelton conference that her son went to a party and said, "I'm going to try Oxycontin tonight." He got fentanyl and died in the same day, which is very tragic. So when all of these crises that are out there, and the young people want to try all these things, that's another thing. So if communication lines of the families are open, and maybe family conferences, or you know, or a family diary or something like that, to see where everybody's at emotionally. I don't know, but this is a real tragedy, and I think if people don't stand back and out of their own, you know. So that's all I got to say.
Carol, thank you for being an addiction counselor. Help us with something, will you? Because I'm struggling with this. We're in a world right now where they've redefined marriage, or tried to. They've told us that you can't call a boy, a girl, a girl. So all these terminology things have been changing in the world. But yet, when you say mental illness, everybody goes, "Oh, I don't want anything to do with it." No wonder people are hiding. I mean, this to me is a no-brainer. Carol, how do we change this? How do we get rid of the stigma? This idea that mental illness does not mean the person is crazy. It doesn't mean that they're the problem. This is just like any other physical or any other type of disorder or illness or issue that we all encounter. How do we do it, Carol? Is Carol with us? No.
Yeah, well, I think we're coming up on the break here. So.
Okay, stay with us, Carol.
Yeah, Dave Muth is with us. Yeah. Go ahead, Deb.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for being with us today on Take Two. Dave Muth is with us. And Carol's holding, and the rest of you, hold on. This is going to be a interesting conversation we're having about surviving suicide here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Christ is the answer, with Father John Riccardo.
John 6, verses 48 to 58. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread, meaning me. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat of it and never die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread which I shall give for the life of the world is my flesh. At which the Jews disputed among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? They're scandalized by this. How is it that we're not? How is it that we just hear this and go, oh yeah, I know that passage? They're just outraged, and at least perplexed. Sane people, inspired teachers, wise men, prophets don't say things like this.
Father Larry Richards.
God doesn't need you to sit there and protect him. If you receive communion unworthily, it says you could be sick or die. But we don't have to protect Almighty God. So God can protect himself. So he knows that man's heart. And if he's not in a state of grace, that communion can become the bread of death to him. You don't need to do that. God can take care of himself.
Open Line with Father Larry Richards. Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and you are the one who drives the program each and every day. And today, again, we are talking about surviving suicide. Obviously, with suicide, there is always one who does not survive, but there are family members who then have to kind of pick up the pieces and try to make sense of things and move on. And we're going to take more of your calls here just momentarily, and Carol will finish up with you. Dave Muth is with us. Dave is a fellow parishioner of mine at Sacred Heart Catholic Church, and his lovely daughter, Madeline, died by suicide. It'll be 2 years on October 4th. And Dave, again, thank you. We can't thank you enough for having the dignity and the courage to join us here on this program. Debbie, you were following up with Carol real quick, and then we'll get to Peter right
Carol,
after that.
I normally don't get agitated on this program. I really don't, but there's something in my spirit that's just agitated. I don't understand it, Carol, how we have come so far in this society, but yet for some reason when we say mental illness, everybody runs. What can we do, Carol?
I know. I think the first thing is that people have a stigma that the person, they skip over the person and just go right to the disease. So they, and I'm recovering as well for over 36 years, but from alcoholism. But the thing is that people, they see somebody as just a disease, a malady, an inconvenience. They don't see the full equation of them as a person, and so how can they even relate to them or love them and so forth? Or even honor them as just another human being if they've already just labeled them and objectified them. And so so it's so easy to, with this age of superficiality and people just trying to be superior all the times, and that they don't get to the core of it. And plus the fact when people commit suicide, I think a lot of times there's the chemical situation with their brain and their emotions is in play. And so when people, it's not that they sat up all night trying to be schizophrenic or major depression or whatever. It's an actual physical thing in their body, and people don't seem to want to believe that. And it's getting better. And there's a book out there. I went to a presentation by somebody who tried to commit suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, and he survived. And when he hit the water, he said, "Oh my God, what am I doing here?" It's a miraculous story. But he never. I'm not sure the name of the book, but if you researched it, you could find it. But
Kevin Hines is his name. I don't know. I don't recall the name of the book.
Amazing.
Kevin Hines.
Mm-hmm. And when he gave the presentation for the state of Illinois and for all the counselors and whatever, his bipolarity was in full mode and so forth. He couldn't travel on the plane. He had to do it, do a Skype from his office because his illness wouldn't allow him to get on the plane and put on a suit and come to this conference, which was televised all through Illinois. And you could really see the humanity that he had and his limitations, but also you could see what a fabulous person he was. And that, and so when people start to know the big picture, they don't just judge and walk away or be cruel. And so I think the awareness has to be out there. And because what if people just take their impressions from movies or something like that? That's going to be short.
Yeah, and Dave, you alluded to the stigma, not just for Madeline, but really for your entire family.
Yes, absolutely, and that's very common. It's surrounding mental illness and depression. There's such a stigma surrounding that topic that most people hide it, and they put on a mask, as Madeline did, and they don't talk about it. One of the wonderful things that's happening in the suicide prevention community are people with what we call lived experience are starting to share their stories and talk about how they have suffered with mental illness or depression or suicidal ideation, and they're sharing those stories. And when people talk about the subject, it makes it easier for friends and family and coworkers to also open up and share that, hey, I've got these thoughts and feelings. So, that goes a long way in breaking down the stigma, which prevents a lot of people from asking for help.
Yeah. Thank you. Carol, thank you so much for the work that you do as an addiction counselor, and we appreciate your comments today on Take Two. God bless you, and we're prayers around you for the work that you're doing. Okay, so Peter, we're going to move on to you. You have, oh my goodness, Peter, you are definitely got our Virtual Patience Award. Well, you're named The Rock, I tell you. Peter in Detroit, Michigan, listening on Ave Maria Radio. Hi, Peter. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi. First of all, I just want to say I'm on a bus here, and if you lose me, I'm sorry, but we're sitting still at the moment. And I just wanted to say that my reason for calling is because I did work in I still do. I've worked in mental health for 30 years, and at first it was clueless on why would anyone want to take their life. It didn't make any sense to me at all. And I began to see as time went on, hearing people talk about things, and then also with myself, finding that my life became more challenging than it had ever been, and different things taking place, I found myself thinking about it, and it was like, I kind of get it now, and I don't know what to say that would help, but I'm hoping that my words might help somebody out there, because it becomes a matter of love to me, of loving the person, and I know I have several friends in the church who have lost children through suicide, and you can do everything you want. I mean, you can do everything you can think of, and it won't necessarily change the course of that person's life. You just have to be resigned to, I'm not God, God is God. I'm going to do everything I can, including prayer, getting help, doing whatever you can, and you just do the best you can, and you love them.
Yeah, Dave, your thoughts on what Peter shared first.
You're right. In Madeline's case, we dedicated ourselves to providing for her every need. Every doctor that we could possibly benefit Madeline. Therapy. Meeting with the school administration, trying to provide resources. We did everything that we possibly could. We went above and beyond, and yet we couldn't protect Madeline from herself. Her mind would play tricks on her, and it was God's will. It was God's will.
Yeah, I remember I've shared, Dave, with you, and Debbie knows, and I've shared on the show that in 2011 I went through a horrific year of depression myself, and it changed my perspective completely. In the Peter, by the way, thank you, Peter, for your phone call from Detroit, and thank you for your work. But what Peter is alluding to, Debbie and Dave, I think is, I think people need to understand that somebody doesn't just, you're not just going through your day, having lunch, doing whatever, and all of a sudden you think, hey, you know what, I don't want to live anymore. You don't just kind of, there is something going on, because I used to think too, how could anything ever get so bad that somebody would want to end their life? And now I have a much more empathetic appreciation of that.
Yeah, it's, I view all of this from the outside looking in, at people who have had these thoughts and feelings, and I can't imagine, Jerry. It's, I saw Madeline, and I've seen other people, but, I've not felt that, and I just can't imagine how your mind does that, but I just can't imagine.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to move along to Sherry in Louisville, Kentucky, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Sherry. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and our wonderful guest, Dave Muth. Hi, Sherry.
Hi. I just wanted to make a comment. I do have a friend who knows somebody that's had suicide, and I worry about my own daughter. It lost her dad about 10 years ago, and it was really hard. And I got remarried about 4 years ago, and there's a lot of turmoil in my house and fighting between me and him. And then if the kids do anything wrong or don't pick up or they start smarting off, he'll get in their face and scream at them. And my one daughter will get a razor and start cutting her arm. Or she'll bang her head and say she wants to die. She can't stand the arguing. And when I try to talk to my husband about it, I'm like, you don't need to get in their face yelling at him, and he just doesn't want to hear it. He's just like, well, look what they did. Look how they act. And it's just always our fault. We're just crazy. He'll tell us we're just all crazy. And I've tried counseling. I'm taking her to counseling. And she says, what's the point? It's not going to get any better at home. So, I prayed novenas, and trying to go to marriage counseling with him, and that didn't work. We ended up fighting in the marriage counseling, and because I just feel like I'm banging my head against the wall with him. He's just like, you're saying I'm the problem. I'm not the problem. You all don't. The kids don't pick up enough. They're behind their age, and they are, because they lost their father at such a young age, and they're still probably coping with that when I got remarried. I didn't get remarried right after he died, but it was like 4 years after he had passed away. But that was a hard marriage too, really hard.
Sherry, let me. I want to tail off of what you're saying, and Debbie, forgive me for jumping in. You might have had something, but Dave, you talked about how people would see you and your family at church and say, "Oh, that's the poster family for health and the Catholic faith and got it all together." And it shows that you had this experience with Madeline, even within that, generally overall healthy family environment. It could still happen.
Yeah.
How much more so, perhaps, if there are traumas, in kids' lives, with changes of parents and the father, being, it sounds like a little bit abusive toward these girls.
Yeah. Well, there's no one cause of suicide. There's always multiple risk factors that converge at once, and if I can say one thing is don't ever give up hope. Always try to instill that with anyone who may be suicidal. Try to just be there for them, and typically when somebody does have hope, they'll put it off by a day or an hour, if they are having suicidal ideation, and if you could just get them through one day and another day and another day, that's a blessing.
And Sherry, I just want to say, just again, from one mom to another, I mean, you live in a city in Louisville. There's got to be resources, Christian counseling, Christian programs. I mean, your children are obviously hurting because of the loss of their father. To me, this is very obvious. Your family needs a hero. It sounds like there is chaos, and that's not good for any one of the members. I mean, there has to, you obviously calling in, you have that strength, so you be the hero. Exhaust all your resources and get help for your family, because it's out there. You just have to really look for it, and you really have to be aggressive and not give up, because you'll find, and we're going to pray. We're going to pray around you that the right opportunities come your way so that your family can heal and be and feel at peace again. I hope that helps you, Sherry.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's what I'm trying to hold on to hope for my kids, and they are in. They go to a Christian counselor that they're not certified though, but they are being trained, and they tape it and then they give it to the supervisor, and the supervisor says, "Okay, this is what you need to do next." So they're not on their own. Somebody's with them, training them, but they're not. A couple of them are not certified. The one that Tara's seeing that cuts her arm, her name's Tara. She is certified. She is a psychologist. So through 7 counties.
Oh, good. So we're going to continue to pray. I mean, keep us posted. I mean, we're with you in this in prayer, and we're going to, hunker down and make sure we storm heaven for your family. I mean, you're reaching out, okay? So we're going to ask God and the angels and the saints to be there to assist you. So please know that.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry, for the call. A lot of prayers surrounding you for sure. Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. Our guest, Dave Muth. His daughter Madeline died by suicide. It's coming up on 2 years now, and it's obviously been a challenge for them. But Dave is very courageously and graciously doing all that he can to continue really Madeline's legacy, which she did so much to help people battling with depression as well. And so we're going to continue with your calls. Going to Samuel next in Wallace, North Carolina, who is watching on YouTube today to Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Samuel. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Jerry and Debbie. It's a blessing to be. Your show's a blessing. It's a blessing to be heard by you guys.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you so much.
And I'd just like to share my experience in 2002. After battling severe depression and anxiety for well over 10, 12 years at the time, I was tempted to take my own life. I practiced medicine today, and I came up working as an EMT and paramedic, and was close and saw those experiences firsthand. And I was overwhelmed. I hung myself. I hung myself on the front porch of my house and hung for 5 minutes, and was found by my ex-wife. I was going through a bad divorce at the time. This was before I'd become Catholic, and I was in a coma for 3 days. And during that coma, I had a vision of Francis of Assisi. And my mother was by my bedside when I came out of that coma. And I told her that, and she bought me a medal of St. Francis, who took me to our Holy Mother, who brought me into Holy Mother Church. And my life has never been the same since. It's been a blessing and a joy to come into the faith. And if I've survived for no other reason than to pray for the souls who've taken their lives by suicide, I get up every morning and I do that during my divine office. I pray for the souls. And I know that nothing happens in God's world by mistake, and from mistakes that we choose to make, He brings good. And what Dave is doing is a goodness that has come from a catastrophe. It's the light shines brighter the darker it gets. And that light is Christ and His redemption and His forgiveness. And if I can do nothing but speak for those souls who've taken their lives as a survivor, good things come from these. We just have to seek God's presence in the sacraments and grow closer in our relationship with Holy Mother Church. And your apostolate, what y'all do in sharing these messages, and what Dave is doing and sharing his daughter's story, may save one life. And I share that with my patients today. I share my story with them in my practice of medicine. I have no shame. It's part of what God gave me to share as my experience. And that experience ends ultimately in Holy Mother Church. And I want to thank y'all for putting this topic out there today. And
well, thank you, Samuel, for the call. And yeah, beautiful testimony, Dave.
Yeah, Samuel, thank you for your call. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank God that you're with us here today to do His work.
All right.
God bless you, Samuel. Thank you.
Yeah, love the passion in your voice, Samuel, and your love for the faith. And you're right. I think it's beautiful that he has really made this a personal campaign, if you will, to pray for those who have taken their lives.
Yeah, he has a powerful voice. He, as I refer to people with lived experience, he's a prime example. And he's not ashamed of his story, and he's sharing it with others. And it breaks down that stigma and makes it okay for someone who is suffering to talk about it. And that's a very powerful thing, is for us to be able to talk about the subject.
Okay, so we're going to move along to Mary in New Jersey, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Mary. Thanks for waiting. Welcome to Take Two.
Yes, hi. Recently, I have a mom who's elderly, and really it's probably in the last year or two we found out that my mom's sister died, it's over 70 years ago, in a psychiatric hospital. So I don't really know what happened, because there was such a shame attached to her being institutionalized and then her death. We really didn't know, except there were certain things that made me think I needed to question what really happened. But I guess my concern now is maturing, and I've raised 3 children of my own. It's just a long-term effect on the family as we are caring for the elderly, and the unresolved, because as my mom is aging, there are so many things that come up, and I just don't know how to care for her when she has such strong emotional reactions to different things. And so I'm just wondering what your experience is when there's unresolved, probably grief related to like a death, but it was related to mental illness, but we just don't have the whole history, and I don't know if I should be pursuing to find out more about it. It's a little difficult because of the number of years that have passed.
I don't know if you have any
so
thoughts,
I just
Dave.
wanted to know what you've seen as far as the effect on the generation.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say other than to say that, through my experience, suicide is such a complicated form of grief. There's so many questions that are unanswered, and the shoulda, the woulda, couldas, and it seems as if, if you let them, they'll consume you. And somehow, some way, in my case, I'm trying to find my peace and know that, I can't go back and change or do anything different, that, I just have to find my peace and to move on from here. Otherwise, I'm not sure what to say.
Yeah, Mary, what comes to my mind, Debbie, is just I think at this stage in her mother's life, just try and, provide for everything, make her mother happy and joyful, and perhaps not even try to delve into a lot of this stuff, because I don't know that would be fruitful in any particular way. Yeah.
I agree, Jerry. So, Mary, I'm just sensing that just live in the moment and enjoy each moment with your mom. There's not, at her age, there's not much. I mean, how are you going to rewind it and try to fix? I know my mom is struggling with dementia, and I just live each moment. I enjoy each second I have with her, and I go from there. So we're going to be praying around your family as well, Mary. So please know that I marked it in our book today. So thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
We are getting some comments on social media as well. And from Facebook Live, Dave, Sean says, 3 years ago, this past Friday, I got a call from a neighbor telling me that my wife was threatening suicide. I dropped everything, canceled my load, and drove halfway across the country to get home. It's been our private hell, emphasis, dealing with it. I think we're now beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So a lot of people are facing this.
Yeah, well, if I could say one thing, Sean, is you're not alone. You are not alone. I know it feels like it, but there is a community out there that will support you, and try to reach out and find that support.
Do we have time for another call, Jerry?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to mention the other comments here, unless you
Okay,
wanted
go ahead.
to.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
Cecilia, also watching on Facebook Live, says, thank you for speaking about this tragic epidemic. My beautiful son Ryan died by suicide just 4 months ago, the absolute worst day of our lives. And so, Dave, I'm sure you will be remembering Cecilia and Ryan and their family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My heart goes out to you, Cecilia.
And Stephanie says, I lost my uncle to suicide in 1996. The pain never has subsided of the great loss my entire family felt. Thank you so much for your courage in addressing this topic. May God's comfort be with you and your family. And I don't think I've ever mentioned on this show, my mother was married prior to my dad, and he committed suicide. And I had an uncle who died by suicide. So, and I think the story we were told by our mother was her first husband, was a sailor who died at sea or something. There was this, again, the stigma just didn't allow for the, the free discussion of what actually really happened. So, all right, yeah, Deb, we can get another call, I'm sure.
Okay, so real quickly, I'm sorry to do this. Marilyn in Colorado, listening on Denver Catholic Radio. We're starting to run out of time, but welcome to the show. Hi, Marilyn.
Oh, hi. Hi, thanks for taking my call, and I really appreciate your compassionate show topic. I want to just mention something on the other side of this. Suicide does not always mean death of that person. Sometimes they botch it, and sometimes they have to be institutionalized because they can't live normally. And that living on for the family is also extremely difficult because you live that hell every single day. That's the circumstances of somebody I know. My particular message today is that sometimes it's as simple as a drug interaction, which happened to my husband, who had Parkinson's and was in a drug study. Things were going well. I said, gee, this might be just what's going to fix you up for a long time. And as people say with Parkinson's, everybody's on an antidepressant if you have Parkinson's, which he was. Well, I encouraged him to go to phase 2 because it was going well, and I thought phase 2 will even be better. However, the chemical reaction of his antidepressant was not going to work with what this new medicine was about. So from one week to the other, I saw this crazy change in him. And one day when I decided to stay home from work with him, he called and he said, this isn't right. You're messing up my medicine. I need to go back to my original medicine. The person on the phone, which was probably a nurse, just said, well, go upstairs and get one of those and just take that. So he took another antidepressant with the one he was on. We got good news from my son that day. He had gotten an internship. We said, good, we'll take it out to dinner. We'll celebrate. In the time we were waiting to go do that, I made a couple of phone calls.
Marilyn, forgive me, we're running really short on time. I apologize for doing that.
Okay, anyway, I was on the phone and I said goodbye to that person and they said, we can go now, and I heard the thud. And they rushed into the hospital to try to save them, and you pray like crazy that they'll live. But now I realize, had he lived, what kind of life would either one of us have had?
Right, Marilyn, we're going to...
But to know that I didn't stay connected enough with his illness. And my whole message is to people, go to those doctor appointments, make sure you know the facts of those drug studies.
Marilyn, we're going to keep you in our prayers, and your husband and all of our listeners and family. Dave, thank you so much, and I know you've got a great group of people around you praying for you right now.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for listening. Have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.